Selma Planning Commission meeting for August 26, 2019 is now in session. Commissioner Curry, would you lead us in the flag salute, please? Please remove your caps for the flag salute. Could we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Garcia?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Here.
Commissioner Fedor?
Here.
Commissioner Zing? Zing?
Here.
Second is absent, and Chairman Niswander.
Here. Any commissioner who has a potential, well, let's do this first. Good evening, members of the commission, staff, ladies and gentlemen. The Planning Commission is now in session. Copies of the agenda for today's meeting are in the entryway on the table by the door. You can help us expedite tonight's meeting by following these rules and procedures. Everyone will be given an opportunity to be heard. When it is your turn to speak, come to the podium, state your name and address clearly for the record. The applicant and those in favor of the application will speak first. Then those opposed to the application will be heard. After that, the applicant will be given time for rebuttal, and if necessary, those opposed will be given the opportunity to rebut. We ask that you limit your presentation to 3 minutes or less. This should be more than enough time for a well-organized presentation. The chair reserves the right to limit testimony and will exercise that right in the interest of others who have business before the commission. After all the speakers have heard, the hearing will be closed. At that point, additional comments from the public will not be allowed unless one of the commissioners asks that the hearing be reopened. Finally, the commissioners will discuss the application, make motions, and vote to reach a decision. If you are not satisfied with the commission's decision, you may be able to appeal the decision to the City Council. Appeals must be filed within a specified period of time and after today's hearing, and you can check with staff for the procedures to follow in filing your appeal. Please make sure your mobile phones and pagers are on mute. Thank you. Potential conflicts of interest. Any commissioner who has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter.
Yeah, I do. I have with agenda item number 1. I'm within 300 feet of the project.
Duly noted. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission regarding any item over which the commission has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the chairperson for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Consent calendar consideration and necessary action on the minutes of July 29th, 2019 due to some problems with getting it published. Can I have a consent vote from the commission to continue this item till next scheduled meeting in September? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Consideration of conditional use permit number 2018-0039, resolution number 209-03, approving a conditional use permit application filed by Dwight Nelson for a 2-story multifamily apartment complex at 3420 McCall Avenue, Selma, California. APN number 358-080-37 and a notice of exemption regarding the same, continued from the July public hearing. Does staff have a report?
On the agenda this evening is for a conditional use permit. Conditional use permit number 2018-0039, a request by Dwight Nelson. The project is located at 3420 McCall Avenue, near the intersection on the southeast corner of McCall Avenue and Nelson Boulevard.
Would you point it out with your little laser pointer, please?
Yes. It would be right here. And
Thank
this
you.
is a more up-close map. So this is Nelson and this is McCall.
So that's where it is, correct?
This is the project site right here. Yes. And then
Okay.
this is more of a vicinity map, just so you could see it's in relation to other areas of the city. But this would be a close-up of the project site. The site is currently vacant, and it is zoned for commercial office, which does allow an apartment complex. In this case, a conditional use permit is required because it is a two-story apartment complex, and 2 stories are only allowed with approval of a conditional use permit by the Planning Commission. The proposed apartment complex is on a 1.05 acre parcel. The proposal includes 20 two-bedroom units and community areas, including a swimming pool. The project is consistent with zoning and general plan designation. This is a site plan for the project. You can see 10 individual units here with attached garages, and above each unit would be the second story and another individual unit, therefore giving us a total of 20. There are a total of 41 parking stalls proposed for the site. That does meet the zoning code for required parking. There is also a trash enclosure that is accessed by Mid-Valley Disposal through a neighboring parcel. The residents would have access to traverse the neighboring parcel and enter in off a side gate from McCall or a main gate from Nelson Boulevard. Including the conditions of approval that we've presented to you this evening, staff does recommend approval of this conditional use permit. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have a question on, excuse me, on page 2, not quite to the middle of the paragraph. It says that this property to the south is not owned by the applicant.
That is correct.
Okay, the following sentence is, however, there is an existing reciprocal access easement that was put in place in 1984 that allows each property access across the other property.
Correct.
Are we anticipating anybody coming out of the parking lot from the commercial side and traversing through the apartment side?
That would not be expected. The conditions of approval and in this same paragraph discuss the eventual plans. So an amendment to that agreement is required prior to issuance of building permit, and the amendments that we have asked for in that amended agreement would be that the commercial property would give up its rights to traverse or park in the apartment complex property.
If I heard you right, somebody's parking on that bare dirt now?
No, they do have rights to, but no, they wouldn't be parking there at this moment. The agreement was set in place when all 3 parcels were owned by the same owner, with the anticipation that all 3 would share access and parking. But what staff and the applicant and also a member of the association decided together was that in everyone's best interest, the agreement that was in place did not truly represent what's being proposed here. Maybe in the past they thought it would be developed for office use, and that would make sense. But because that doesn't make sense with what's being proposed, that's why we required an amendment to the agreement.
Any other questions of staff?
If they cannot make it, reach an agreement, then the project will be held off, right?
Correct.
Okay. Because I see it greatly increasing the amount of traffic on that particular driveway. And if the person who is responsible for the increase in traffic isn't responsible for maintenance and care for that part, for that driveway, I think that that also should be included in the agreement.
As it stands, because they would have access to that side, actually, I won't speak to that. I'll just say that it would be up to the private property owners to come up with an agreement amongst themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions of staff? Thank you. Is the applicant or his representative here?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Dwight Nelson. And I remember back when I used to serve on the Selma Planning Commission, and when I was actually the chairman at one time for a while, so it's good to be back. The apartment project that we're proposing, understand, is on a piece of property that I've owned for 40 years, and it's been vacant for 40 years. My 3 daughters would like to own something on their own, and this is going to be their project, their first apartment project in Selma. And so I'm representing them and myself because will be the developer for them on this. The property, as you've been told, I don't have to come in here for a conditional use permit to build apartments. If I keep them single story, the zoning allows them right now. But what we tried to do is come up with something that would be a great project with concrete tile roofs, a Mediterranean look, and make a really nice project out of it, like we did with Robinwood condominiums, like we did with the Lakes apartments, like we did with Capri Villa. All really great apartment projects in Selma that command the highest rent and the highest clientele, I might add, in our community for multifamily dwellings. This project, we decided to go 2-story because it's a little over an acre, and the number of units we're putting on, actually all we need is about 30,000 square feet, but what we have is 45,000 square feet. So we're not maximizing the property with an overflow of units. The conditions of approval that have been set forth by the planning director and the staff, for the most part, I don't have a problem with. There's some items I think that we need to try to work through. As an example, one of those is having to put a cover over the trash enclosure. And I've not seen that done before in Selma, so I'm not really sure if that's a new requirement or what. I mean, I don't mind doing it, but it just seems odd that I guess I'm going to be the first one to do one because I've not seen one done anywhere that I'm aware of. The other thing is about the working out an agreement with the property owners of 3410 McCall. That's the office building right next door. And understand that the cross easement, if I build single story, I don't have to have any agreements with anybody. I have the right to build them, and my tenants can go park wherever they want to park on those 3 parcels. But I made it clear with some of the owners of that complex on Friday, and with the planning director, with the city manager, and with your city attorney, that I don't have any problem coming up with an agreement. And you talked about it, the planner talked about it, on item number, I believe it's, is it 12?
I believe it's 12.
So, and I don't have a problem doing those 3 things with item number 12. I'm agreeable to it. We can have our attorney make one up, or the property owners at 3410 can have their attorney make one up. It doesn't matter to me because I'm agreeable to do this. And basically what it says is, that and before I forget, the driveway, by the way, that you talked about, I own half the driveway. So I paved that, 40 years ago, and when everybody wants to maintain it, I always chip in for whatever they ask to chip in. If they're going to do the work or I do the work, we split the cost of maintaining that driveway, and we'll continue to do so. So the 3 things they're asking us for to do, I tell you right now, before the commission, no problem, I'll sign that agreement. And what I told Mr. Barron, who is one of the property owners, I said, on your property, your office property, it will say, that my tenants can't park there. And I'll have rental agreements with my tenants that tell them they can't park there. If the tenants want to come down and park at 3400 McCall, if they have if they have a party, if they have a graduation party, if they have a bunch of people that are coming to their house for a party and they don't have enough parking, they're more than welcome to come to 3400 McCall any day of the week and park there. It's perfectly fine. And that will be in the agreement with our tenants so that they realize that. They will be notified that they're not allowed to park at 3410. And if they do, you know, we can oversee it ourselves, or if Mr. Barron and his people want to say, Dwight, you know, there's some people parking there, we'll tell our tenants you can't park there. Look at your agreement. So we're trying to do it right and be good neighbors. And that's about it. We appreciate your time, and hopefully we can build some nice apartments and create some more housing for Selma.
Any questions of Mr. Nelson? I want to commend you for trying to make it as easy as you can on everybody. And would anyone else like to speak in favor of this application?
Or if there's any questions, I'm willing to answer those too. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody want to speak in opposition of this application? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Sean Rusk, and I am one of the tenants at 3410 McCall. I would like to thank the commissioners for the opportunity to address the proposed project at 3420. I would like to be very clear that as the president of the McCall Professional Offices Association, we are not here to prevent a project from moving forward. However, in the Planning Committee staff report, it states that the proposed use will have no adverse effect on property within a 300-foot radius of the permitted use thereof. Therefore, I would like to share some of our concerns. My understanding is that on Friday afternoon, which was this last August 23, there was a phone conference between the applicant, city personnel, and one of our owners in our association. I was not able to be included in this meeting, but it's my understanding that there must be a cross-access agreement plan agreeable by all parties involved, or else the building permit would not be issued. We, the association, have 5 concerns that we would like to have addressed by the city and the applicant before we sign or agree to the cross-access agreement plan. We would like to see the following items included in the final approval site before building permits are issued. It is my understanding, unless I'm mistaken, that the applicant and another owner from our association have already discussed these points. Number 1, an automatic sliding gate from the south boundary parking lot, which would be closed at all times except when open with remote only by the tenants. Number 2, a block light fence on the south end boundary of the new project. Number 3, the applicant will add in the tenant rental agreement, which I believe he has already stated also, no parking on the parking lot south of the apartments, which would be private property, and it would be towed away at owner's expense. Number 4, the garbage gates that open for the garbage dumping only for the service vehicles needs to be on a motorized arm somehow or another to open and close by remote. This is due to the fact that if the gates are left open, there is not enough room in the driveway to pass, thus blocking the whole southbound area of the parking lot. This will cause more people to turn right at the first drive, which is the northbound direction, and then proceed south on that northbound direction, in other words, the wrong way. This will also help keep garbage from being spread and dumped by the homeless, which has been a huge problem in our parking lot. Recently, we've had to add locks to our own garbage cans so that it can be prevented. The driveway at the point where the new project is built to the boundary line is no longer 24 feet at the point of where the trash can is and where the pool is, and that would push out to the property line. The driveway becomes 13 feet at that point, so that you can access the southbound direction of the parking lot. And we're concerned that may or may not be wide enough for either fire, garbage, or other service trucks driving in that area. Number 5, the City of Selma gives McCall Professional Offices Association a written waiver for not enough parking stalls for square footage of our office space. Losing a minimum of 4 and possibly up to 6 parking stalls due to the project being built to the property line could possibly allow, or would leave us only about 13 feet, and that we don't believe may be enough for us to have access for the trash trucks and so forth to be able to drive through there. It is a concern that not enough space will exist for them to be able to make a right-hand turn at that point. Our parking lot cannot afford to lose as many as 6 parking stalls, so this is not an area that we wish to explore. The site plan does not appear to be drawn accurately in that area to reflect only a 13-foot wide drive in that area. And finally, as a side note, the original site plan handed out at the July 29 meeting did not include moving the trash and the pool wall extended all the way to the property line like the new site plan does. This new site plan, we believe, will affect our traffic patterns, which equates to a loss in the number of parking stalls. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, would you like to rebut?
Well, 1 through 4 went well. On the driveway, so in this parking lot, the parking lot circulation pattern is clockwise, okay? So when you come in off of McCall, you're gonna go right and clockwise come around, okay? So when it gets to the back of the property, the east side of the property, there's no reason to have 2 lanes, one coming out and one coming in, because it's a clockwise pattern. It's only 1 lane going around. So we have taken our property, our development to the property line. And we'll make all adjustments to the asphalt and everything else out there to make sure that everything flows properly. The office building at 3400 McCall, which is mine, and the office building at 3410 McCall have cross easements of all the parking. And a couple of points. Number one, Saturday and Sunday, if you find 1 car out there, that would be somebody working on weekends. They probably shouldn't be working because they're always empty. During the week at night, there's never anybody parking there. And the reason for that is because we've had a history of vandalism. If you leave cars out there at night, you can't see them from the road, so people can go back there and do bad things. So nobody leaves cars out there at night. Next, 3400 McCall and 3410 McCall together, we all share each other's parking. And so we're never in need of parking. We've never had a problem in 40 years of not having enough parking for our people that come into our office buildings. So we'll make the proper adjustment to the driveway, and it will have the clock flow pattern, and everything should be fine.
Well, you, excuse me, you've done enough projects, and the city has the input from the police department as well as the fire department. So I'm not really concerned as far as access on the driveways for emergency or otherwise vehicles, unless it's something really catastrophic, and then I doubt access is going to be an issue. But my own feelings are is you've given this a lot of thought, and you definitely have a workable plan here. So
Yep.
I thank you for your input.
You bet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition of this project? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion of this hearing and bring it back to the commission for comments and a motion. Any thoughts?
No.
As far as the garbage area being covered, I can tell you as someone who used to run a laundromat in town, that I wished my garbage area had been covered because I had wharf rats all over the place. That's possibly what this covering thing is about.
I can speak to that.
But, pardon?
I can speak to that. The requirement came down some time ago due to water quality issues.
Okay.
So the state, I believe it was the state, was concerned about runoff. So when the
Okay.
water fell into the trash and then it, would go into sewer systems or
Okay.
storm drainage. Storm drainage systems
Yeah.
would be the problem. I will follow up with Jamie on whether we can still require that or not.
Between you and Mr. Nelson, can we do the garbage collection area, whatever you want to call it? Can we position it so that the garbage truck has to make the least amount of moves possible to pick it up, dump it, and leave?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions?
No.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that
Okay.
we approve, let's see. Sorry, gotta switch back. Resolution number 2018-0039 to approve the conditional use permit.
I'll second that motion.
Do we have a resolution here to also
Yes,
implement?
that was the motion is with, Mr. Chairman, the motion that the conditional use permit is 2018-0039. The resolution is 2019-03. That is toward the end of the information for item number 1 in your packet.
Are
Do I
you-
need to
do you
reword
wanna
it?
Do you want to include that in your motion?
Sure, I make
Okay.
a motion to approve conditional use permit number 2018-0039, resolution number 2019-03.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I do, sir.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
And, Mr. Chairman, for the record, we would note that Commissioner Fedor did recuse himself from any consideration and did not vote on this matter, and now it would be appropriate for us to request that the Commissioner return to the dais. It's evident, Mr. Chairman, that the Commissioner did not bring us all back Starbucks or anything else to drink. Just for the record, if we can note
Duly,
that.
duly
Thank you.
noted. Thank you, sir. Okay. Item number 2, consideration of tentative subdivision map, planned unit development and density bonus, number 2018-0038, resolution number 2019-04, approving a tentative subdivision map, planned unit development and density bonus application filed by Arbahan Nagra for the purpose of permitting a 10-lot subdivision at 2595 Pine Street, Selma, California, and a notice of exemption regarding the same. This item has been continued from the July public hearing. Is the applicant or his representative here? Would you like to speak?
Good evening, council members, commissioners, and everyone. Nick Sahoda, 2511 Logan Street. I'm a project engineer on this project.
So,
And yeah, I'm just here if you have any questions on it. And the last time I think we were here, that some of the neighbors, owners didn't get the notice and about this letter subdivision.
okay, thank you. Any questions of the applicant? Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this project? Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Harpajan Singh Nagra. My address is 11160 South Chestnut Avenue, Fresno, California. I plan to develop this property on Pine Street with 10 units and a small park. It will be developed in good taste, and I probably later on sell it. If I can't sell it, I may rent it. But it will be developed in good taste. It will improve the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant? Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this project? Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition? Step forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, council members. My name is Robert Garcia. I am the owner of 2631 Rose Avenue, which is the next block over. Building these apartments, which they look like to be, you cannot fit 10 houses in this little area. I've been there for over 20 years. Us, as a neighborhood committee, we do our best to police our area. Our crime rate is lower than it is in a couple blocks ahead, due to the fact that we live there. And we don't want more traffic than already is there. My house is on the next block. we're very close. We're all close. We all talk to each other, and bringing something like this is gonna hurt us due to bringing lower income apartments back, kind of like a project area back into our neighborhood, and which will invite more thieves, more stranglers to come in. As of right now, we do good on our own to police our own neighborhood as best as we can. Everybody knows each other on both blocks, Rose and Pine, and we do our best to, and allowing this to come in is only gonna hurt us. It's gonna bring crime rate up, it's gonna bring riffraffs in. It's something we don't need in our area. Our houses are not small areas, they're all about half acres to acre lots. And we do the best we can for our properties. If you look down to our neighborhood, they're not. They're all big lots. And we're here to stand up for ourselves and to let you know that it won't work. 10 houses in that little property is not gonna work. We have one house on each property. We do good with our neighborhood. That's what I'd like to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Gilbert Garcia Aranda. I live at 2639 Pine Street, and like the gentleman said, it's true. I have almost an acre there. I have two houses, and I've been there 45 years, and this project wants to come up. I think it's just out of hand. You know, I see it in the paper, there are 10 houses, whatever they are. To me, it's just like a modernized apartment, and you got people coming with apartments, a lot of problems. We had had a couple of murders there in the last year on the little apartments. We have a lot of homeless coming in, and that's the only way to get to the back of the west side of town, and there is traffic bad. And I see here where the streets are not gonna be too big, where they're gonna be built. Are they gonna have a fire or anything like that too? Because I think all the houses together, if there's a fire, it's over for a lot of us. So I think, you know, I don't think it's agreeable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition? Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name's David Quintana. I have two homes on Pine Street, almost directly across from this property. You know, I looked around the area, and at least 5 acres, you got about 6, 7 houses. You got this little piece of property that you want to put 10 houses down there? How can that be feasible? We already got problems with traffic. The Green Street, it's only one way. You could only go one way on that. You got these apartments coming in. I find it kind of hard for the fire department to go in there. They were there just the other day. And where did they park? They parked on Mason. That's the only way they can get there. I mean, is it feasible to put 10 houses down on that little piece of property? The traffic is already there. I mean, I could see maybe 4. I mean, a good living space. I mean, you're not giving, by reading this, you're not giving the people very much living room. How big are these? Are they houses or bungalows?
Do we need to answer that, or, I mean, is he asking
Would
a
you
question, or-
consider answering the gentleman's question? Thank you. Okay. Okay. Would you like to rebut? Please state your name.
Yeah, Nick Sahota, 2511 Logan Street. Yeah, I wanted answers. Some of these questions are we did spoke with the fire departments, and we did have a meetings. We did drove inside the fire engine or on the Evergreen. And right now it's only 20 foot wide, and we are proposing to putting a 42 feet wide. We're giving up a 22 feet to making Evergreen accessible for the fire engines. There was one fire was happened, and that was their concern. We did take over it, and also we did on special programs to see that if the fire trucks turn through the all these streets. It does works, and fire department is we are complying with them. And far as these houses, these are the houses. These are not apartments, and these houses are around 200,000 to 300,000 each houses. So they do have enough parking and the backyards, and these are from anywhere from 3,700 to 5,700 square foot lots. And right now, the way that our state of California's trends are, they wanted a smaller subdivisions, and that's what is everywhere is happening too. And under the PGOD, that's what is allowance. There's many cities done it, and we are legally we could have them. I think as 8 lots. We are only doing it 2 more under the PGOD, which was under the city ordinances.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Any questions? Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition? Hurry up, clock's ticking.
He said 200,000 to the homes. Who can afford that? So that, no one can afford it there. So they're going to be rentals. He mentioned it too, that he's going to rent some. They're going to be rentals. We're going to have more problems with people, with kids, traffic, everything. That's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be.
As far as value, actually, any cheap home right now in Selma, the cheapest is over 200,000.
Not there, young lady, not there.
Sir, I'm a real estate broker for the past 12 years, so I'm answering you just based on my experience. I live in Selma. I work in Selma.
You don't live there though.
I live in Selma,
Yeah,
so
but
it
you
is
don't
my
live there.
hometown.
You don't
No,
live there
I
on Pine
understand,
Street.
but I'm letting you know that I know the value around town, like my own home. So a 200,000, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath right now, I can line up 10 buyers for each. If you have a concern about value as far as selling.
If he doesn't sell them, he doesn't sell them for 200,000, he's not going to sell for 100. So he's going to rent them out. He mentioned he's going to rent them out.
I
That's where
understand.
that problem is.
I'm
Sure
not
it is.
arguing that. I just wanted to let you know that value
Okay.
has gone up in our
Yes.
town.
Yep.
Thank
That's-
you.
It's
Thank
all
you.
Problems.
Thank you. Anyone else? We don't want to do anything that's redundant. If you have something new to add to the mix, fine, but let's not hear the same thing time after time, okay? You're welcome to speak, but let's touch on a new subject, not the same thing, the same complaint. I'm not saying nobody can speak. I'm saying let's not keep going over the same subject. We got the idea. You don't want 10 new houses.
I got a question for the gentleman there. He said, I asked for the living space. He's giving me the whole property space. He's giving me square footage for the whole property. What's the living space that these little houses are gonna be?
He's getting ready to answer your question.
Yeah, these are from 1,300 square foot to somewhere around 2,000 square foot homes, and 3 bedrooms, and there's a couple of them. It's going to be 4 bedrooms.
Thank you very much. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Ambrosio Gonzalez, and I live in 3037 Love Street in Selma. And what I think is this place too small for 10 houses, and a lot of people sold drugs over there. And I buy the house close to this lot. They have the naked apartments, and the house I buy last couple years close to this lot is 2567 Pine Street. And when I buy this house, it's a lot of people sold drugs right there. When I buy this house, it stopped to sell drugs, and it was, I think, they make these apartments, and it's more people sold drugs over there. The thing is that this information is it's in in English. A lot of Spanish people live over there. They nobody know. They got the information. They not can do nothing because it's put in the side.
Okay, thank you.
We addressed that, right? We addressed last meeting the notice, right?
Yes. Does anyone else, excuse me, does anyone else wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion and bring it back to the commission for comments and a motion.
I just say it might be an illusion that the lot is small because it would allow without any CUPs.
We're streaming. Can you speak
Sure.
into the mic?
I'm saying it might be an illusion for the homeowners around that this lot is very small. But without the density bonus, it allows for 8 homes on a 7,000 square foot lot. So it's not as small as it looks. I'm just
Well, human nature is to not want to go with change.
yes.
And that's what's happening. We're changing, the applicant is proposing to change a vacant lot
Right.
into something more productive. I understand their concerns about crime. I understand their concerns about rentals being in the area. But in my mind, one of our missions here as a planning commission is to determine the highest and best use for this real estate.
Right.
And I think or feel that this is probably adding to our density housing that we're short of in the city of Selma.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way to bring some new housing into an area that needs it.
Right.
My only concern is, and I want to ask Mr. Nagra, in the event you should, and I'm not wishing you ill will, but in the event you should somehow not own this property anymore, what provisions are there to maintain that park? I would hate to see it become a weed patch and dry up, or the city be out to have to take it over.
I already cleaned it one time, district, because as soon as I bought the property, I got a notice from the city that it's a fire hazard. I should clean it up, so I cleaned up within the time they provided me. And if I don't develop it, it's a big fire hazard. It's an eyesore. My project will improve the area, I think. And,
What I'm trying to find out is, in the event you're not involved in this property any longer,
the park will be
Mr. Chairman, would you ask him to speak into the microphone, given the fact that we're streaming?
could you come up and speak into
Thank
the
you.
mic?
Nick Sahota again, I'm gonna answer behalf of him. And yeah, we will be signing up a some sort of agreement if city required, if that's what you guys wanted, and we could do that, which will be go against the property somehow
Well,
lien if they
Do
don't
you see
do
my
that.
concerns?
Yes.
If for whatever reason on down the road, Mr. Nagra is no longer hands-on, I don't want the park to deteriorate and become an
Agree.
eyesore.
And we could put some kind of agreements between the association, all the 10 homes.
Okay.
And we're willing to do that if that's what the city wants.
So you're planning on having a homeowners association?
We don't, but if that parks does need it, requires for that, we're willing to do that.
So if it's owned by one person, it's not a problem. That person, whether it's Mr. Nagra or anybody else, will maintain the park.
That is right.
But if he is going to sell to various homeowners, then I believe a homeowners association will be necessary, because otherwise none of the individual homeowners is going to decide to take upon themselves to maintain that park.
Sure, we could do that, yeah.
Condition of approval number 1 is for the owner to enter into an agreement, a binding agreement with the city
Thank you.
prior to issuance of building permit to maintain the park.
So that could include a HOA then.
Yes, whatever form it takes, they are required to make the agreement.
And what teeth would that agreement have?
That would depend on how the agreement was drawn up.
With-
So Jamie would be reviewing the agreement before it was accepted.
So with the density bonus, if we didn't use the density bonus, we could build 8 homes on that property right now, just pulling permits.
Right.
That is correct.
If we were to do that, if that was to happen, is there still the requirement, as there is with the density bonus, of there being low-income housing?
No, there's not.
So that could just be then
So
Market rate.
market rate housing.
Correct.
yes, so in order to get those additional 2 units, those 2 units must be deed restricted or have a legal binding recordation of the rental. I'm sorry, Jamie, what was it called when you, it's still called deed restriction?
It's a deed restriction.
Okay, so either way,
30
whether
years.
it's owned or rented,
Right.
it's still deed restricted on those 2 units, those 2 additional
So-
units. But
so-
a density bonus is not a discretionary action, it's granted by the state. So
Right,
the
it's a
state
shall.
allows it, yes.
Yes, local communities, hands are tied when you're dealing with density bonuses.
Because the state is in favor of additional housing and low-income housing. It's because there is a housing crisis in the state of California.
Right.
So that's something that was handed down to all communities in the state that they must follow.
So there is a housing, 8 houses would help, for sure, right? But 10 would probably help.
Mhm.
2 more.
2 more, exactly.
Fair enough.
Any other questions?
I understand your concerns, I hear you. If they build 8, there's 8 chances you could get 8 bad neighbors. And that's totally legally allowed right now. If they build 10, you could still get 8 to 10 bad neighbors, or you could get 8 to 10 good neighbors. Again, I hear your concerns, but I can't let your concerns stop a project that would be good for Selma.
Thank you.
Yep, I also, if, I wanna mention too that there's a state laws on accessories units that, City of Selma adopted last year, that any houses could have a second homes, without, any city requirement or city approval. That, for example, if you own a 5,000 square foot, you could have a 500 square feet another home that you could rent it out as a second unit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So basically, if those lots are 7,000 square feet and they build 8 homes, somebody can build an accessory dwelling unit in the back versus right now, if they're 10 and they're only 3,500 square feet, it's practically impossible to double the amount of people in that area.
Well, I think 10 houses would be more beneficial than a couple little dog houses in back.
Right, that's why I believe this would be better actually for the neighborhood than,
Yes. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve, again, where's our resolution? Is it number 2018-0038?
20, it's resolution 2019-04.
2019-04.
I do second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion passes 5-1. What are we doing here? Consideration for conditional use permit number 2018-0042, resolution number 2019-05, approving a conditional use permit application filed by LAV/Pinnacle Engineering for the purpose of permitting the construction of an electronic billboard at 1645 South Dockery.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. I did want to let you know that given the length of our agenda, I have prepared very short reports. So if you do have additional questions of staff, please feel free to answer, but we're going to just try to give you a brief overview.
Okay.
This request is for a conditional use permit, number 2018-0042, and categorical exemption. The project site is located at 1645 South Dockery Avenue. The project fronts Highway 99, and it is developed as an industrial property at this time.
Do you have, back up, do you have your pointer handy? Where exactly on that property is it proposed to put this reader board?
That will be, I don't know if I have that exhibit in this, on the PowerPoint. Let me see. It would be in the packet. No, it's not. I can tell you from my project knowledge that it's in this area. I'm sorry that this exhibit does not show it.
So approximately the middle of that
Yes.
lot from
Probably
north to south?
right about even with that
Mm.
line here, just about
And
this area.
how far is that removed from the existing reader board out by the highway?
That exhibit shows that distance. It does meet the code. I can say that our, let me see.
Does the city of Selma have a sign ordinance?
Yes, they do.
And it meets the requirements of
Yes,
the
it does.
ordinance?
So the sign ordinance does require any off-premises sign, which is a billboard, because it's advertising anything on the sign that is not on the site. So it's considered off-premise, as opposed to, for example, Walmart would have a sign on their property, so they have a freeway-oriented sign, whereas an off-premise sign is free to advertise anything that is not on the site, because this is not, this electronic board will not be advertising for this industrial property business here. So it's a transportation business, so therefore it's considered off-premise, so it has its own special restrictions, and staff has compared this application to those conditions, and it does meet them.
So this is a commercial venture?
Yes, it is. Much like the existing one below it.
Any further questions of staff?
It does not has any risk of glare issues with neighboring properties. Is there anything residential that might be affected by?
No, there's no residential near this project site.
And it won't affect glare as far as traffic or?
The project applicant did provide a lighting study that showed there was no impact as far as ambient light, changes in ambient light, or light pollution, as you would say it sometimes. And then this sign would be evaluated by Caltrans. So they will, Jamie, can you remind me of the actual name?
Under the Outdoor Advertising Act, Caltrans, because it affects, or it's positioned near a state route at 99, it is subject to Caltrans review. And that would occur prior to the issuance of any building permits.
Yes, so they would ensure that the impacts to traffic would not be hazardous.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
So, what will be the luminosity of the billboard?
These are rather small numbers here. I'm not sure I can read it. The lighting study provided by the applicant did provide those numbers, and they were below a meaningful threshold.
Because sometimes we are also passing by billboards, and if it's dark, like cold colors, it's okay. But immediately it turns yellow, white, it blinds you. So it's going to be a big billboard. So I think we should think about the luminosity. The people who are on the right most side, they may get problem while driving.
That is a valid concern.
Yeah.
Caltrans will look at that.
Any further questions? Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application?
I have one question if I could.
Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name's Don Fester. Who's paying for this sign? Are we, the City of Selma, paying for the sign that's going to be put up?
The applicant.
No.
Okay, how long is it going to take to get our money back from advertising on this sign? Are we
Pardon?
going to be able to, you're going to advertise things on this, right? It's similar to the sign I see down by the 7-Eleven. I live over by the high school. I see a sign there constantly advertising. And I'm sure people pay for that, right? So the sign you're going to put up over there, you're going to advertise the City of Selma. You're going to advertise other things. Is that all going to be paid for?
This proposal is not brought forward by the city. It's brought forward by a private company.
A
So it
private
wouldn't-
company.
They would be paying for it. They would be developing it. The city would not be involved in its development other than the approval process.
So what is the sign going to say onto it? Just welcome to Selma, Selma Bears? Is it not going to have any, come to the chiropractor, come see the Bears play? Nothing like that? It's just going to be a basic sign, welcome to Selma.
The sign would be advertising any commercial or political or religious. We cannot regulate copy, so the sign can say whatever it likes, and the advertiser is free to choose who goes on the sign and how much they charge for the sign. And the Supreme Court prevents us from regulating what the sign will say.
Right. We're back to the same question. How long is it going to take? You said that this is not going to be paid by the City of Selma, but the people that are putting up the sign are going to charge people to advertise on that sign. Does that make sense up there?
Well, it's a commercial venture.
Mm.
They're not gonna advertise free.
No, I can understand that, but why wouldn't we be interested in doing that ourselves instead of a
saying-
commercial venture doing
You're
that?
saying the city of Selma should get into a commercial project?
No, I'm saying, why don't we think about different ways to earn income? And that is definitely a way to earn income. I see in this being controlled by one person constantly making money off of our businesses in Selma, maybe businesses around Selma, maybe Kingsburg. Open question, open question. That's all. Thank
Duly
you.
noted, thank you. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this application? Is the applicant or a representative here?
Yes, sir.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Todd Hanson, Sun Outdoor Advertising, 1831 Truxton Avenue, Bakersfield, California. So first of all, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the gentleman's concerns about what will happen. Of course, we will pay for and cover all the costs entitled into the business. We have billboards throughout the state of California and all the western states. Some of the questions into the regulation of the lighting. Our billboard is designed and built by some of the best electronic billboard companies in the country. Meet all the regulations of all the codes. We have digital billboards up and down the state and throughout the Central Valley already currently. There is always issues with glare and things like that. Sometimes they have issues with the landscape underneath the sign. Most of the things that happen now with our billboards are built to those regulations. So if you need a better in-depth copy or of the restrictions or the needs of the illumination, I'm sure we can provide that to you. As in, when we build a little bit different, so we're kind of a local company. I'm based in Bakersfield, and it's a little bit different in regards to this gentleman here. We have eight to 7 rotations. If we don't have a rotation sold, and I have a couple pictures I brought up on my phone, like last week, we had the Bakersfield City Softball League champion up on our board, right? And we have the mission up on our board, and we have work with Mayor Go on projects, and we work with the fire department and the police department, and that's at no cost to the city. We design the boards, and we provide them free copy, and that's just an open space type of opportunity that we would do the same thing here in this place, is to work with the businesses if you have a car show going on, or if you have a festival going on, we provide that space at no cost, as long as it benefits the city that we're in, which would be Selma. So we try to become friends of the city. And the digital part makes that work. If you have a vinyl billboard, you know, it costs you to put the vinyl up and all that stuff. The digital one, you just create it, plug it in, and it's there that day. I mean, we had a city championship team that night. The next morning, it's up there congratulating the team. So, I mean, we try to be friends of the city that we're in working with. And we also have a billboard, a vinyl billboard, just 1,000 feet south of this current one that we're talking about. And so, you know, we're already here working with the city. So, I don't know if you have any more questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application? Does anyone wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion of this hearing. I'm going to bring it back to the commission for comments and a motion. We
See a
have,
problem with it?
well, I'm just thinking, we have a billboard on the, actually on, between the highway and the fence, just south of this proposed site. I'm wondering, are we getting them too close together to,
That
I
all
don't know.
regulated already though?
Yeah,
That's
based
already
on
regulated.
Well, the
what
city side
Kara said,
ordinance.
yeah, it meets the ordinance of distance between signs.
I just don't want it to look like Glitter Gulch out there. Any other comments?
No.
I like the idea that it brings in the school, you know, things like that. They'll advertise for them. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's needed.
For the city, all the events that we have in town, they get involved with that. That'd be nice.
A motion.
What is it?
And I think it's up on the board. I made that mistake already.
201.
The resolution number?
Oh.
It's resolution.
2019-05.
2019-006?
Five.
No.
05.
05.
Number
It's
3.
6.
It would be on your agenda. I'm gonna confirm it. It is 5.
Here.
It's 5.
And make a recommendation to approval of resolution number 2019-05?
06.
No, she said it was 5.
It is 5.
It's 5.
Resolution, okay.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
What is 6 then?
Consideration of tentative parcel map number 2018-28 and resolution number 2019-06, approving a parcel map application by Gaurav Sethi to divide a single parcel into 2 parcels at 3000 Floral Avenue, Selma. It is determined that the project does not have the potential to result in a significant adverse effect on the environment. The activities are determined to be covered by section 15315 of the CEQA that provides minor land divisions. Does staff have a report for us?
Yes, thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. This next item is for a tentative parcel map. The project location is 3000 Floral Avenue, near the intersection of Highway 99 and Floral Avenue. The site is currently developed with a gas station and a commercial office use. The proposal is to divide the existing 1.04 acre parcel into 2 separate parcels. This request includes a tentative parcel map and a categorical exemption. The site is developed in compliance with and consistent with the general plan designation of regional commercial and the zoning designation of CR. Here you can see the parcel map. The split is proposed right here. And cross-access agreements will be in place to maintain access by both parcels to Floral Avenue.
So we're basically separating the gas station and the convenience store from the allergy clinic and the urgent care?
Correct.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this project? Does anyone wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion and bring it back to the commission for comments and or a motion.
Is there
Seems-
currently
Seems,
access to both lots?
well, it's all one APN number,
Okay.
but
No.
No,
You can't drive from one lot to the other.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was thinking the commercial office can't get to Floral without going through the other parcel. But yes, right now they are open to each other. I can
And-
pull up an aerial.
And both businesses have approaches off of Floral, correct?
No.
So you'd have to add an approach?
no.
no, they're saying they're gonna have a cross-access agreement.
So they will be sharing same driveway.
Probably, I'm not sure.
Sharing the same driveway with an easement for ingress and egress and
Okay.
This is the
shared
driveway.
use.
All right.
That would remain.
Chairman, nice wonder.
Given access.
So the allergy clinic and the urgent care would have access via the station property?
Yes.
Okay. It seemed to me we
They
just,
have this way as well.
it seems
I'm
to
not
me
sure
it
if the
hasn't been that long since we did a lot line adjustment to
Yeah,
get,
that was my
to get
question.
the fuel tanks on the same lot the gas
Yes.
station's on.
So is it being split to be sold, or
I-
is it all well known?
I'm ready for a motion unless you guys have some questions.
Move to approve resolution number 2019-06.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Consideration of site plan review pre-zoning annexation number 2019-0013 and mitigated negative declaration resolution number 2019-07, recommending to the city council approval of a site plan review pre-zoning annexation number 209-0013 and associated mitigated negative declaration filed by Self-Help Enterprises for an 84-unit apartment complex that includes open space and a community center on approximately 4.21 acres. The project site is owned by Karen L. Cerruti and is located at the northwest corner of the intersection of East Dinuba and Wright Street in the unincorporated county area within the city's sphere of influence. Does staff have a report?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. The item before you lastly this evening includes a site plan review, a pre-zoning, and an annexation. The CEQA review required for this project was a mitigated negative declaration. And this evening, the Planning Commission would be making a recommendation to our City Council for their final decision on this project. As already stated, the project is located off of East Dinuba Avenue, where Wright would extend down below. You can see that the project is just outside the city boundaries. The red line shown on this exhibit is the city boundaries. It happens to go around this parcel and back up. So this would essentially incorporate it into the city if it were to be annexed. In order to annex the property, the city is required to pre-zone it. The proposal is for a multifamily project. This project is for low-income housing. There are 84 units proposed. The proposal is consistent with the existing general plan designation. The city does general plan designate land outside of the city limits, but we do not zone land outside of the city limits. So in this case, the zoning that would be consistent with high-density residential is R3, and that is what the applicant has proposed and staff has concurred with for consistency. This is a conceptual site plan for the site. You can see there is sufficient parking. There are open areas, 2 access points. Yes, 2 access points to East Dinuba Avenue, or once Wright would be extended, residents could proceed north. Sorry, there we go. They have proposed different bedroom configurations. Some are 1-bedroom, some are 2-bedroom units. And it meets the code in as required by the density bonus. So this is another time where the state has required us to allow a density bonus. And with density bonus, it also grants them concessions, so there are some reduced setbacks and additional coverage that is allowed strictly by the density bonus.
I have a couple of questions, please.
Sure.
My understanding usually on annexation, it happens with larger parcels together, like larger acreage. Is there added cost to do this just on a small parcel, just individually like this one, to the city?
That is possible because there is staff time involved, but the City of Selma's fee schedule is set up that applicants pay a deposit, and then anything that the city spends in order to process their application beyond that deposit is billed to them. That is different. That's unique to Selma as far as I've seen. There are some cities that do it, but Selma does recoup their project processing costs.
Okay. And is there a way to actually limit access from Dinuba and do it from the side streets? Dinuba is already congested as it is. I would have a great concern as far as traffic and people waiting to turn into that entrance to the apartments. That would be unsafe for the others, especially that last year I believe they spoke about a proposed increased speed limit on Dinuba. So I would imagine that for everyone's safety, it would be better if those units have access from, I want to say, Wright Street and maybe the opposite end.
Yeah, this is, I believe it's South Thompson. This one. You're saying, oh, I'm sorry, it would be through Sarah then. But yes, as the project is designed and as the parcels, the existing homes are, the only access can be to Dinuba or Wright Street. Typically, apartments, you would want to direct traffic to a collector rather than a local street, and because Wright would be a local street, it's kind of like a second option.
So will there be a turning lane or?
So any traffic improvements that are triggered by the development of this project are taken care of with development impact fees. So there are fair share fees that developers pay to make improvements. Usually the city would collect those fair share payments from multiple owners and developers, and then when it was warranted based on their traffic counts and traffic studies that are done, when it was warranted, then they would make those improvements, such as a signalization that goes in when it's warranted. So the city collects the fees in advance as properties develop, and then once it's time, then they spend the money on it. So this developer would be paying their fair share of impact fees.
And it's not possible to ask the applicant for dedication of a street, for example, off I mean, there's no street there, but right at the property line.
It is possible. Our engineering department would determine that, and in this case, they didn't. There is some. I'm sorry. Let me look at the exact amount here. If it's
This will be coming back to the planning commission, will it not?
this would be going to city council next.
But before they start hammering nails, it'll come back to the commission, will it not?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No,
Then-
because this includes the site plan.
And since we're also traffic and streets, we need to get some, something going
Let me
here as
find it.
far as ease
It's
of
in the report.
access.
Just let me find it. So they are required as a condition of approval by the engineering department to widen Dinuba Avenue to the ultimate configuration per city standards along the project frontage. They are constructing Wright Street from Dinuba to the north because you can see that it's started here. So they will construct this as a road. They will give the dedication for its full width. So our general plan designates what the full width of a street will be. So as properties develop, those dedications are acquired. And then, for example, well, this one's outside the city, but for example, when it developed, it would be required to dedicate that space as well. And over time, the city makes the improvements based on the right-of-way that they've acquired.
Does the report say anything about signals at Wright and Dinuba?
No, it does not.
Well, there's a signal at Thompson.
Yep. There is a signal at Thompson, but I don't know if that signal's gonna have any effect on the project. I mean, a signal at Wright Street in Dinuba, if this project is approved, would, in my opinion, be a necessity.
Yeah.
So it could be a part of the city CIP project list. I'm not positive on that. I wish the city engineer was here to speak to that.
Okay.
Let me check one more spot.
I've attempted both right turns and left turns off of Wright Street and onto Dinuba, and they're not fun.
No, it's hard. That's why.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
You might want to ask members of the audience to wait until you've requested anyone to speak, so that their comments can be included in the record.
Let's keep it one at a time. You had a concern about.
Asked her.
Okay. Did you get your question answered? Any other questions of staff? Anything you want to add?
Staff just wanted to add that this project would go a long way to meeting our RENA numbers that are required by the state.
Okay. Is the applicant or their representative here? State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Tom Collishaw. I'm the President and CEO of Self-Help Enterprises. We have offices at 8445 West Elwyn Court in Visalia. We're pleased to be here tonight and appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about what we think will be a great addition to the community of Selma. We've worked with the staff. We appreciate their work to date and their enthusiasm for our trying to work a project of this type in Selma. We've been around for 55 years. We're a private nonprofit organization. We've built over 10,000 units of affordable housing. We're still best known for our single-family sweat equity program, of which we've completed some projects in Selma, not any in recent years, I will say that. But this is affordable rental housing. We currently own and operate and have under construction approximately 1,600 units of rental housing currently at about 34 different sites, from Bakersfield to Modesto. We are a well-known developer who accomplishes what we set out to. In this particular project, we are looking at a funding source that does require a certain level of density, but we have done this product at 4 other sites successfully. It's actually a tuck-under parking scenario And the units, you see very little cars from the street. It's very attractive. We're actually building it right now in Goshen. We have a project in Dinuba, Lindsay, we're starting one in Patterson as well. So we've done this product before. A couple things about this project that I think fall in line. Your regional housing needs assessment has been mentioned. This helps get you there and comply with your housing element. This is a high-density residential. It is in the general plan for high-density residential. This basically is consistent with that. And I think what you get with Self-Help Enterprises is a great partner and a steward of assets essentially in perpetuity, because we're a mission-driven organization. We're not in this to sell or make a profit. I would like to point to, we appreciate all the conditions. Some issues about access and egress came up. We're willing to work with the city on that. We have no preference for Dinuba. It does seem to make sense as a collector street, but we're happy to work on that kind of an issue. We would point to one condition that came up fairly late. It was not discussed with our engineering firm, and we were a little bit surprised to see it when the staff report came out on Friday, and it's an engineering condition number 22 that suggests that a sewer main should be extended to Golden State to serve the proposed site. It was our understanding that there would be capacity in the nearby hookup. We did take a look just today, because this was news on Friday. We took a look at your master plan for your sewer, and the update in 2016 suggested that would cost, I believe the number was almost $5 million, and since 2016 we're seeing increased costs, so we think that that's probably about a $6 million ticket. The project could not bear that kind of cost. That's about $70,000 a unit. But what we like to suggest is that we will work with you. We have some ideas about some funding sources that we think might be able to offset that kind of cost. So we'd like the condition to read something a little bit different that says "or other alternatives," because that would make the project essentially infeasible. It's like a 27-inch sewer line that would go over 4 miles, just about a mile. So that would be a significant problem that we would see. But one of the things that we would like to do is to apply, and we've done this successfully 4 times in the past. We would like to apply for affordable housing and sustainable community funding. That's part of the cap and trade program at the state. And that has a significant resource for cities to do certain improvements. When I heard traffic lights, that is something that would be possible in that program. And it's a tandem housing and infrastructure program. And we actually successfully helped the city of Lindsay get money to build a roundabout in that program, and the county of Tulare to put in a streetlight on Riggin Road near Freeway, near 99 through that program. So that would be something we could look at closely with the city if signalization was requested or warranted in this case. So to wrap up, we think this is a great project, and we're a great partner. We're interested to hear from the folks in the community, and we're pleased to be here. Thank you.
Is this a sweat equity project?
No, this is actually a straight rental complex that we would sponsor and own and be responsible
Well,
for, different than our sweat equity program.
Then this Self-Help Enterprises is misleading.
I'm sorry, it's misleading?
It's misleading. It says Self-Help Enterprises. That intones that you pick up a hammer and help build the roof over your head.
And that's, in 1965 when we were incorporated, sir, that was the only program that we had at that time. And we have grown to be a multi-dimensional community development and housing organization since then.
Does anyone else wish to, do you have any questions? Does
One
anyone
question.
else?
So all 84 units are for affordable housing?
They are, that's correct.
So like through Section 8 or?
No,
83 of them.
83, isn't it, sir?
Yeah, actually, there's a manager's
Yes.
unit for an on-site manager, that's correct. So it's actually 83 of the 84, that's correct, sir. So we utilize low-income housing tax credits. So we bring in an investing limited partner. We compete for those tax credits and then sell them to an investor who becomes a limited partner in the partnership. That typically raises between 40 to 70% of the equity that's needed to build the project, but in return, we have to guarantee to the state of California and the investors that we will maintain affordability at a certain level for 55 years at minimum. And then we typically couple that with some other public financing. I mentioned affordable housing and sustainable communities. There's also the infill infrastructure grant program at the state. We would look for resources to ensure that those rents were going to be where they needed to be to serve people at an affordable level.
And as far as screening your tenants, if this turns out into, I don't know, drug houses or meth labs or who controls that?
We do. And we have, as I said, we have 1,600 units. Currently, we don't have drug-infested places. We have what we consider the best rental housing in town, in virtually every town that we built in. And so we have no problem giving you the address. You can go on our website, selfhelpenterprises.org, and it gives you addresses to every one of our sites, and I would welcome people to go visit those sites at any time you'd like to see them. They're great places. We have an on-site community services that we do at a community building. We have recreational opportunities. We connect our residents with great services, including those that give them an opportunity to advance their education or improve, do English as a second language as an example, but any variety of services. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this project? Does anyone wish to speak in opposition? Step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. And we're gonna limit it to 3 minutes, and let's try not to hammer the same subject over and over.
Okay. Carol Marcus, 3809 Wright Street. The issue about traffic, it's just unthinkable that you would plan more traffic for that particular spot. You have 2 schools on Wright Street, and the kids walk past there. There's no light or anything, no crosswalk. So you have all these kids coming during school times, and it's just would be a nightmare. As we said earlier, there's already wrecks at that corner constantly, and we just don't need that in our area. Now, this is a single family home neighborhood. We all care about the neighborhood, and we don't want to see it a bunch of apartments that are going to bring down it won't come out, finances in selling houses and stuff. I think you would see some houses sold in that area if you bring this in. You know, you think about it, in your neighborhood, would you want this in your neighborhood? And mostly the traffic, and there is a concern about drug addicts and that type of behavior. We don't need drugs. We don't need any of that in our community. So I hope you think this very seriously and decide not to let this happen to us.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening.
State your name and address, please.
My name's Don Fester. I live at 3805 Wright Street. my time to 6 minutes because there's quite a bit of things we need to cover here. Bring up your map again. Let's look at Dinuba Street, okay? Dinuba Street is already crazy. Have any of you tried, I know the teacher here comes home from that Wright Street on Dinuba. We have people that are at that four-way stop backed up to Wright Street from McCall. Okay, number one, we're gonna need a four-way stop. We're gonna need lights there on Wright and Dinuba. First of all, I wanna thank the lady and the gentleman for coming. We got some major issues coming here. We're gonna need a light on Wright and Dinuba. Okay, these are general things. Dinuba's not big enough, guys. If you go by the 4th of July and see how many cars are up and down our street there and on Dinuba, it's out of control. I've called the police chief, I don't see him around here. He needs to put some police just in that general area. It is just out of control, people. If you would take 5 minutes out of your day, about 5 o'clock, and just park there and see what happens, okay? It's out of control. Now, where I come from, some of you may know me, I've coached for well over 20 years. 10 years ago, we were looking for a place to have soccer fields, to have baseball fields, to have softball, Little League. We have 2 Little League fields in Selma. We rent Abraham Lincoln their soccer fields. This is a perfect place. If perfect, I can only tell you how perfect place is for an activity place for our children. How many of you people have children? This is what life's about, guys, building for our children, okay? Let's do something good for our kids. Let's get some basketball courts out there. Let's get some swimming pools going on out there. 4.2? Is that what we said, acres? I see so much potential right there, without a doubt. I think you have the right idea, but you're in the wrong place. The sewer alone scares me to death, what you're just talking about, making that right. That's been an issue in Selma for forever. And we're talking the grape vineyards to the left, right? Is that the general location of where we're building this? I see grape vineyards to the right, and to the left is an open field. I see a house and an open field. Okay. I come from an area on Thompson, right by the high school. And the people who've been around Selma a long time know the Cheese Bros. As soon as they passed away, their kids came in, sold the property. The high school wanted to buy that property they built all those houses on. You know, what's going on in this world, guys? We got to take care of our kids. Honestly, that's it. Money, money, money. Huh? Is that the world's about? Is money, money, money. We need to slow down and think about our kids growing up. Some of you guys are teachers. I understand that. Let's take care of our kids. Leave it at that. I don't want to argue with anybody. I just think we're not looking for the future here. We're looking now.
Thank you.
You're in the wrong spot, guys.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition?
Hi, I'm Gladys Griffith, 9885 East Dinuba Avenue, and I wish to speak against this proposed project. In looking over the paperwork for this project, we found several contradictions. Here are a few of them. In the project summary, it states that no existing house will be, I'm trying to talk in 3 minutes. In the project summary, it states that the existing house will be preserved and relocated off-site. On page 31, it states that the project would not result in existing residences being removed. Project summary states 124 parking spaces on the site and 19 off-site. Elsewhere, it says there would be 16 off-site. The application assessor's parcel number says it's 4.21 acres. On page 3, it says it's 4.59 acres. On page 2 of the request for development concessions, this phrase, "to make this project economically or financially feasible," appears 7 times. Sounds like it's on shaky grounds financially. In some research I did, the number 2 problem with dependence on government subsidized loans is a delay in funding those loans. Suppose the project gets started and expected funding fails to come through on time. What happens to the project? Is it reasonable to expect that the project cost will exceed the estimated cost as it usually does in building projects? Well, then what happens? How does the project get completed? Then comes the problem of loan repayment. Although it is deferred for a time, it still must be repaid. This leads to the number one problem with subsidized loans. It is delayed in receiving subsidized rent funding, which affects the renter's ability to make their payments. Then the mortgage payment becomes a problem. Is the City of Selma willing to accept this reality? Next, let's address the development concessions required that this city would be required to make. The application requests modest deviation from current standards to city ordinances. I do not consider the concessions they are asking for to be moderate. First, they have to have 20 units per acre to receive this bonus funding. In order to pack 84 units onto this 4.2 acres, they are requesting the city require setbacks of 20 feet to be reduced to 15 feet all along the north side of that project. Then they're requesting to allow 18 inches in overhanging on the second story into the setback on the south and the east sides. Neighbors on the north side will certainly be deprived of enjoyment of their backyards and their swimming pools with a 2-story unit 15 feet from their fence. May I continue another paragraph?
Make it quick.
Okay. Second, they are requesting private open space to be reduced from 150 square feet to only 100 square feet, 10 by 10 area for homes. Third, they are required to provide 140 parking spaces. Well, when you pack 84 units into such a small area, there's not room for 140 spaces. So they propose to put 124 on site and the remaining 16 spaces on the public street of Dinuba Avenue. How can public parking on an already congested street be considered as fulfilling their requirement to provide parking? Please do not approve this development concessions and deny the request to build these 84 units. And I yield to Jacqueline.
Thank you.
I'm Jacqueline Harper, 9989 East Dinuba Avenue, very close to McCall. And to further the examination of the paperwork received, looking at page 9 regarding air quality, they state the emissions would be similar to other residential projects. Think about adding 140 cars to already congested Dinuba and Wright streets, where traffic is already stop and go for long periods of time, 4 times a day. This includes semi-trucks with their diesel emissions waiting to move. It's not at all similar to other residential streets in Selma. On page 16, it addresses the mandated on-site solar systems capable of producing 100% of the electrical demands of the residents. My neighbors have solar, and we know the number of panels needed to meet our single-family residences' consumption. Even if every roof surface is covered with panels, I don't believe that it would produce 100% of the demand usage for 84 apartment units, especially in the summer months. On page 25, it states the project involves the construction of a 3-unit apartment complex on 0.21 acres to provide for stormwater collection. Using that formula, if my math is correct, this would only provide for 60 units, not 84. On page 27, it states development would blend with the existing neighborhood and would not divide an established community. False. Placing 84 apartments with 305 people in our very low-density neighborhood would certainly have a negative impact and divide the community. On page 31, it states that adding 305 people to a city with a population of 24,782 is not significant. That may be true if those 305 people were scattered all around town. However, when they're all placed on the intersection of two of the most congested streets, it does create a significant influence. That cannot be mitigated away. It also states the project is to construct 3 multifamily residential units. On page 34, it talks about increasing hazards. It says the total anticipated trips for the project would be 456.96 daily trips. These additional 56.96 vehicle trips have to travel down Dinuba Avenue or Wright Street. Consider all the children crossing the street to get to school and home again and walking along the street. Would not these additional trips pose a threat to their safety? Lastly, consider the schools themselves. With 305 residents, a good guess is that half of them would be children. Neither Jackson nor Indianola could accommodate such an increase of students without new construction. More tax dollars would have to come from all Selma funds, residents to fund this. Tax dollars for the loan, for the subsidies, for the schools, and so on. Please, reject the wishes of the respect the wishes of the residents in this area and deny the approval of this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition?
I'm Victoria Schaefer. I live on 9803 East Dinuba Avenue. And I want to tell you, the congestion now takes me 15 minutes to get out of my driveway. My daughter was late for work the other day because she couldn't get out of her driveway. And you add this, all these other people and all these other cars will never get out of our driveway. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Frances Carasosa. Frances Carasosa. I live at 3801 Wright Street. And like you say, I don't want to hammer the same thing over and over, but everything that they brought up is true and factual. And what's going to happen to our property values? Are they going to go up? Aside from everything else that's going to happen? I think it's something with, and then I understand that we do need some low income housing, but maybe not there, somewhere else, where it wouldn't be such a hazard for children, for adults trying to cross, and it's just not at Wright and McCall, it's all the way down to Thompson. That's got to be included too. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition?
Hello, everybody. If it helps, you guys all look beautiful.
Please state your name and
Okay,
address.
my name is Onkar Baines. I have it the worst because I live right on the corner of Dinuba and Wright Street. I'll be facing everything. Everything will be on camera for me. I mean, that everybody knows. The city manager, if anybody knows me, I clean up those streets for 28 years. 28 years I've been cleaning those streets. Nobody else does it. All to get a thank you with low-income housing and apartments. How do you think it would feel to see what I've had to face? 15 years I fought John Zapata with homeless, drugs. I mean, we had school kids walking there smelling drugs, telling the police department this. Everything in the book happens that way. Still to this day, we have homeless and criminals walking. They're waiting for this project to happen. This is where they want to come to. This is what you're going to be bringing to us. All our homes we worked hard for. We built, we sweated, we worked our butts off. Everything's hurting to get to this level, to build a house. And my family now, we already put a sign up to leave. But it's not fair to my neighbors. I wouldn't do this for money, for anybody else. The gentleman Bill there, who lived on that property, would never allow this. Yes, his daughter took over, and I'm surprised she never even told me, Miss Crudy. I protected that property. My sons and I saved Bill's life, who owns that property. He was stuck on the fence 2 times. You know, he was hollering for help. He was bleeding. Me and my kids went over there to take him off that fence. You know what? He wanted to do an old folks home at one time there because he wanted to oppose any apartments. He didn't want any low-income houses. I talked to him for years. We protected one another as neighbors. We still do. Whether I leave or not, to the day I leave, if I can leave after this project, I still would never do this to any of my neighbors before I leave. It is horrible out there. My emotions are all over the place, you know what I mean? I didn't know where to start or what to do or what I was going to say. 30 years of talking within 3 minutes, it's impossible to do. But this is all wrong. I know it's going to be all wrong. It's all profit. Non-profit? I doubt that. You guys live there to understand what I'm going through. I worked hard. Everybody knows how much I clean. I go there every single day to clean. He knows I'm out there cleaning all the time. Everybody should know how much I do for the city. Rally to keep our town clean, car shows. The shopping center over there on Dinuba and McCall, I had a coffee shop there for 15 years. I would go clean the county areas. I would keep everything clean. We made that shopping center #1. But still, the crime never stopped. I tried to help the police department for years to solve things. To this day, up to my house, I'm still solving these problems. This would only bring, this is gonna be horrible. We don't sleep at night. Can you imagine living right on that corner? Can you bring the map up, ma'am, if you don't mind? And maybe zoom it up to that corner if you don't mind. I've lived on that corner for 28 years. I've cleaned all those streets when nobody else keeps anything clean out there. I don't wait for the city. I even ask them to help me, but instead I still go out there and do it myself. But to see something like this for profit and not think, imagine living in my house. Just imagine me living on that. You guys were living in that corner, how you would feel. There's no way I would want this. I don't think any of the neighbors here. There should be actually way more neighbors. And if you need me to bring everybody from that neighborhood, I will do that for you guys. But please do this somewhere else. Because this is not going to be good for us. This is going to ruin everything you have. You're going to ruin good citizens, and it's going to be bad for us. Do you guys have any questions for me? Because I can answer so much.
Thank you very much.
No questions at all?
Thank you.
Please, he's my, please.
Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition?
My name is Juanita Varela, and I live at 3813 Wright Street. My house is the second on Dinuba and Wright. And Ankar is right. He does a very good job of keeping the place clean, but we seem to face over and over obstacles of the homeless going by, the drug addicts living across the street from us. My grandchildren have had to move out and relocate to Clovis in order to go to the Clovis schools because Selma schools are so bad in terms, and I hate to say it because I'm an ex-administrator and educator, but the truth is Selma is attracting a lot of the problems that we're seeing here in the community. Selma has an image problem because of the crime that exists right now, and bringing this type of housing is only inviting more problems. Down the street, there is on Dinuba Street, there is a store, and right there are some bushes or oleanders. There's homeless living under there. So we already have the problem right down the street. To bring this is only going to make it even worse, and I'm highly considering just moving out because it's no longer the community that it used to be. It's going downhill pretty fast. So please consider not bringing this type of housing into Selma. We don't need those problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in opposition?
Hello there, everybody. My name is Gurjit Baines. I live at the corner of Wright and Dinuba, 3817 Wright Street. And I'm not quite sure how somebody who is going to develop this place can sit there and say, we're going to make sure we do not have those types of individuals living there. Are they going to personally interview select, look at every applicant who'd like to live in that particular location? I don't think so. It's subsidized housing. I don't think we can govern who can and can't live there. It's subsidized housing. As long as you meet those requirements of the subsidized housing, you're in. You're gonna have a huge waiting list of individuals who'd like to be in. That's part one. Part two, that is an extremely congested area. I fear for my kids every morning who get out of my house, try and get over to Dinuba across to get to school. It's impossible to cross that street. I fear they're gonna get hit every day. I look at my cameras every day making sure, okay, good, another day he's made it across, thank God. When we first moved there, or when I did, my husband and them lived there before that, there were umpteen accidents hitting that fence that John Zapata owns. That fence is yet to be repaired because it's continuously hit. Buses, we have congestion of buses. You go at any one given time, you have 10-fold vehicles right in front of my house waiting to cross that street. It is impossible. I leave to work in the morning. We back in our vehicles because God forbid I have to back out of my driveway. I will never leave. So please, we urge that this project does not go through. I understand we all need a place to live. I understand you are coming from great ideas and whatnot, but this is not the location. This is not the place. This is our home. We've lived there for many years. We know what should and shouldn't go there. So I please, please beg that this project does not go through. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does anyone, excuse me, does anyone else wish to speak in opposition? Would you like to rebut?
So we appreciate neighbors who care, and obviously there are neighbors here that care because we care about the neighborhoods that we build projects in as well. I'd like to go back just a second and talk about why we're even here discussing this. There is an affordable housing crisis, and it's here in Selma. With rents that average rents about $900 or $1,000, you have working families who can't afford to live here right now. And so we're talking about creating housing opportunities for working families to give them the opportunity to maybe move up in the world like these folks have been able to do in their lives. And I'm sure they've done it with hard work, and we're trying to do the same thing. So there are a few things that were mentioned that I just want to correct. Traffic is mentioned several times, and I've said, and I'll say again, that we're willing to work with the city on remedies around traffic. I heard, let's do something for kids. Totally agree with that, but there's nothing more fundamental that you can do for a child than create a safe space for them to live, in a place that they can grow in a safe environment, and one that's has opportunities for them to improve. And that's what we provide. Somebody asked, how do projects get, something about if a project gets started and then the money runs out, but we've never started a project that we didn't complete, and we've been at this for 55 years. There was a question about solar. We've done these exact same units in a project in Patterson, and we get 100% solar offset by placing solar panels on the roofs. Property values were mentioned. There is not a single reputable study that's been done that suggests that affordable housing of this type, which is high quality affordable housing that's built sustainably and is managed correctly, does anything to bring down property values. One gentleman used the term homeless and criminals. And there was a question about whether we interview clients. Absolutely we do. We screen clients. We look at their track record, including their any blemishes on police records and those kinds of things. We have very high standards. People have to be creditworthy. They have to show us that they have the income they need to get in. We are not bound to house every person that applies to us for housing assistance. That's not what this is. And generally, I heard something about profit, and I thought I made it clear that we are nonprofit. We are a mission-driven organization that, by law, the only reason we're in this is to pursue our mission, which is to improve the lives and create opportunities for families who need it. in the valley. So I would, these are concerns by neighbors. There's often, I think it was mentioned even earlier from the dais, that there are fears of the unknown or something that's not there. I think with us, you have a track record. We could put people on a bus and take them to projects, existing projects that we could have. Maybe we could allay those fears. But these are not drug infested or whatever the terminology was used. That's not what we're about, never has been. We have never turned our back on a project, and we're never hesitant to tell people, go see our projects before you make essentially a lot of unfounded comments. So we want to work with the neighbors. We want to be a good neighbor. We hope that you can see this clearly. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you folks like to pick one among you to Sir rebut?
My name is Bernard Marcus. I live at 3809 Wright Street. Looking at the city map, I got your city map and your sphere of influence. On the west, there's a lot of sphere of influence. Where we are is a very small part of a sphere of influence. I'm not sure what you can do in the west, what you can't do in the west. The main concern probably is a very, very good project that you have. But like we all say, it's not at the right place for us right now. When I walk in the morning, I walk by 6 o'clock in the morning down Wright Street, or else I'll be killed. When I try to drive, I don't drive out to Dinuba. I go around back to Thompson to get on the light so I can get on Dinuba. So I live 3 houses from there. So my main thing is there another place? If there was no other place and you had to do it, I guess you have to do it. But to me, it seems like if you have a sphere of influence, you have an influence in other places. And that may be a great, great thing to have somewhere else where the traffic is not that bad. As I walk, when I come back, kids going to school. Little kids were going to school. What are they doing? Talking on their phone, not paying attention to anything. And what you're going to have, I'm sure if you do this, you're going to have some of those kids that come from that same place that are very happy kids, walking across happily and get run over by the traffic. Thank you.
Thank you.
So when they said that.
State
Yes,
your
you
name.
guys-
State your name and address.
On Carbanes, Wright Street, 3817 Wright Street, right on the corner of Dinuba and Wright. When you interview people and you bring them in, and of course, it's always the nice people. Oh, look at my credit. Oh, look at what I've done. But it's the 50 other people that they bring in that are the criminals right with them. And that's what you can't find out who's coming in with them. And let's just say, oh, well, they came in. Slowly they'll take care of it if they even can. And by that time, it's already going to be a problem. With 84 units, that should answer your question about, oh, of course we interview people. That's what my wife meant to say was, when you interview people, it's always the good ones. But what they bring along with them is always bad. I'm 48 years old. I think by now, if I don't understand how the system of how people do things, and the way the system in Selma works is everybody's trying to get away with whatever they can, and that area is infested with, I kid you not, do this project if it's nonprofit, that's great. Do it somewhere else where everybody wants it. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, do it somewhere else where maybe the city has maybe more offers for them to give them land. Sure, no problem. Take it, do it. But when it's concerned citizens, and I mean, this is very little. This is just us few around here. If you need me to help you bring more people, I mean, I don't mind. I'll help you find locations if you want me to. My question is, are you willing to buy my house out or their house out if you want to do the project and some of us want to leave? You're welcome to talk to me like this too, if you guys don't mind. And there is a lot of, like traffic-wise, only the person who's live in that area that is there sees it day in, day out. I call the cops every other day. You can go see all the police reports. You can see how many times. They know Mr. Baines, who's always calling for all the concerns. It's going to make more crime, I can guarantee that, as a fact. I mean, I've got that place covered on cameras. You can ask me. You can tell me how many people peel out, how many people go crazy there. Liquor bottles every day thrown out there. So you can imagine the drunks going by, and I'm pretty positive the people that are going to move in there are going to go to the human services over there across the way. They're going to walk because it's affordable living. They can't afford to drive. So they're going to walk down Dinuba Avenue where there's no sidewalks, the streets are bad. Every day they're going to go get their free money, their free stuff, and then they're going to walk back in there, and with all that traffic and all that crime, they're going to get hit. And then they're going to sue the city maybe. They're going to sue other people for the problems. But that's what's going to come in here. I mean, directions of the way they're coming in, Wright Street alone, I mean, you're going to bring in every homeless and weirdos that come through the back. They're waiting for that street to open. And then the tractors that are going to come from the farmers, I know they're my buddies that rent the farms there. Sastrigal, by the way. He should know what I'm talking about. The farmers, they use their tractors. You build that road, it's going to be filled with dirt, dust, 24/7. It's not going to look like a road. It's going to look like a dirt road still because those tractors are going to come through and they're just going to make a mess. So it's going to look worse than it already is. I'm the one who has to help them blockade the fences and everything. And, I mean, I'm going to stop here. Maybe I can rebut if he has any more.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, just one more thing, because I do work in education, and there is a big picture here that was mentioned early, and you do have a school teacher up here too. And he probably can emphasize this. The high school, we need another high school in Selma. Jackson, I work at Jackson. Jackson is at capacity right now, okay? We cannot have another kid. We are sending kids to Indianola because our school's so full. Jackson, Roosevelt, they're all filled to capacity. Okay, think about the big picture. We're gonna need 2 more schools. Is it coming from here? I don't think so. I think the city of Selma needs to start thinking big picture, more kids, more kids. We can't have any more kids in our school, high school. I know you're overloaded too. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public portion of this hearing. I'm going to bring it back to the commission for comments, and I have a question for staff. Has there been a recent traffic study done on Dinuba Avenue in the vicinity of Wright or Thompson?
Not that I'm aware of.
You can ask me. I have cameras there 24/7 and I am at that.
Public portion is closed.
I would defer to the engineering department.
I'm
who
not
cannot speak
comfortable
this
moving
evening.
forward on this project until I have more information available to us as far as traffic studies and the
sewer.
associated.
Infrastructure.
Yeah.
The infrastructure is not in place now.
We're missing too much information to, I feel, to move forward on this at this point in time.
I would say that the project is under a tight timeline and we can provide, due to their funding requirements, so we can work on providing more information. And because this is only a recommendation, you may, if you could make a recommendation for or against, and then the city council would be presented with your recommendation, and then they would, we could at that time provide more information to them.
If you're going to ask me tonight to make a recommendation on this project, my recommendation's going to be no, because I don't have enough information to vote any other way.
It's up to the commission whether you would like to make a recommendation
How do you
tonight.
guys feel?
But I would offer that staff would provide any and all information to the council for their decision.
Somebody move to approve and then we vote.
No, it's not approval. It's a
It's a recommendation
it's a
for approval.
recommendation to the council. So we can recommend against it and let the council deal with it.
I'm comfortable with that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If you're going to recommend denial, then we would need to bring back a resolution that would set forth those findings at your direction. Alternatively, I'm not quite sure what the timeline is for the applicant in terms of moving this project forward. And the city engineer is not here tonight. If it is the commission's desire to get more information with regard to a traffic study or with regard to the infrastructure issues that need to be addressed, in particular, I believe it was is condition 21 in the engineer's report with regard to the sewer. My memory serves me right. 22, rather. Then we can certainly look at that and work with the applicant and address that. If that's the direction of the commission, then I would respectfully request that you continue the public hearing, and we could continue it to a date certain, which would be your next planning commission meeting at the end of September, would be the 23rd. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Chris, it is.
So we could continue it to the 23rd. If we had to advance it to an earlier date, then we would need to provide notice to the Selma Enterprise, and we would need to provide notice to those living around the project. So alternatively, if you also wish, we could take a brief recess of a few minutes and speak with the applicant with regard to their deadlines in terms of funding cycles with, I believe they're probably seeking funding through the state. And those applications, and they have to be submitted at a certain period of time, and the funding awards occur at a certain time, and they typically only occur once per year. I'm not aware of where that stands with the applicant. So I defer to you, Mr. Chair, and your wisdom and leadership on this issue.
I just want to add one thing. Teresa informed me that V5 annexation, that they did do a traffic study, and they are in this area. So there has been a traffic study recently, so maybe we could
And we
provide
haven't
that.
seen it because?
I'm sorry?
We haven't seen it with our information packet because?
Not today. Based on the number of peak, so when a project is evaluated, again, for CEQA purposes, it looks at peak trips, and this one didn't trigger a traffic study beyond. There's a chart basically, and it says number of units and number of trips for peak AM and PM. And in this case, it didn't trigger anything beyond that.
I would consider waiting 15 minutes to get onto an arterial in need of a traffic study. Personally.
So
we also have some issues
we-
with this condition for the sewer. So
Yeah.
I'm just not comfortable that we have enough information to make an informed decision. So if it's amenable to everybody, if everybody's agreeable, I would consider, or rather do, a continuation to our next meeting scheduled September 23rd. At which point in time, I would really like to have any and all information that's available.
Specifically sewer and traffic.
Sewer and traffic in particular, but the other infrastructure issues. I know there's been talk of some signalization at McCall and Dinuba. There's been talk of signalization at Golden State and Dinuba. Let's see where we are on all this stuff, okay? Because regardless who's going to live on that property in the future, we need to make it as safe as we can for everybody. I would also like to see a plan from the applicant to ensure the privacy of the houses to the west and to the north.
They're considering this is a two-story building.
Staff did have a discussion today about having the city engineer attend the planning commission meetings, but the other option I can give you in case that doesn't happen would be to meet with us anytime. So if you come in anytime between now and our September hearing, with any of Dan or Joey from engineering or myself would be available to you at any time.
So we're talking about a special meeting?
Oh, no, I was just saying if it was just one-on-one, it's not a public hearing or anything. Just if you specifically had questions for the city engineer, they could answer
I
them.
would think if one of us had a question, all of us would like to hear the answer.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, we could arrange to have the city engineer present at your next meeting on the 23rd.
Okay. Thank you. Would you like to add something, ma'am?
certainly, I just would like to share that the
Can we
applicant
have
did
her
also.
identify herself for the record, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. Teresa Gallivan, City Manager. I just wanted to share that the applicant is absolutely fine with the condition that these traffic concerns be addressed, and it be a condition that you recommend to the city council in order to move things forward, that those concerns would be addressed in any approvals to the satisfaction of the city. So just wanted to bring that forward if you wanted to expand on that further.
Recommendation.
Yeah, and the timing issue is simply this. This still takes a LAFCO approval, and we need to get to the LAFCO by December 13th, so we're trying to back ourselves back. It's a funding opportunity that only comes around once a year. So literally, if we don't get a shot at this funding round, we'd have to wait a whole additional year. So that's the whole reason why we're trying to, and we're absolutely willing to have a condition on the traffic issue needing to be resolved, the sewer issue needing to be resolved, certainly before any final approvals are done.
Well, I just assume continue this to the September meeting.
You do.
Yes.
Are you folks okay with that?
So I have one question, like in our September 23rd meeting. So I do need one thing, like as they have said, they have done study for the traffic. I also want to know like how many accidents have happened on that particular location.
That will
because
probably be part of this traffic
yeah,
study.
that's good.
Okay.
Just to mention, this traffic access, there's a lot of people that have hit and runs there that the cops don't get on time. I'm the one who catches the ones when the police chases happen, they have those and they run through the streets. But there's a lot of them that get away with it, and I know all the traffic accidents. And some of the neighbors here, the ones I know.
The traffic study, will it be done, I mean, I don't want it to be done when, like, I don't know if they did it during the summer, what year that one was done, but it needs to be done while school is in session. Not during the summer where traffic is light. I mean, it has to be while school is.
Well, if we're gonna hear the results of a traffic study by the 23rd of September, it'll have to be done while school's in session, won't it?
Well, I wasn't sure what you guys were.
Well, maybe we'll go out on Sunday so we don't have to count so many cars.
And do we, is there a concern?
Can I have a motion to continue this till the
Yes.
23rd?
Sure. I'll make a motion to continue this to the 23rd.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I do second.
I have a motion and a second. We're going to continue agenda item number 5 till our next scheduled meeting on September 23rd.
We need to take a
Is
vote.
there a genuine concern that our elementaries won't absorb?
At this time, any member of the public
Could
may
you
address
please
the
vote
commission
on
regarding
that item?
any item over which the commission has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the chairperson for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. I'll take a motion to it. Do you wanna address the commission again?
No.
If they wanna speak on anything that the planning commission has to do with, we're here to listen. You got a minute.
Different subject. Yeah, not necessarily the one we just closed. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, some members of the audience may believe because there was a motion and a second that there's actually going to be a vote, but I take it that motion and the second is for commission's direction with regard to continuing this matter to September 23rd. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you for that
That's correct.
clarification.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Opposed? I'll take a motion for adjournment. I'm hungry.
Move to adjourn.
I just have one thing, please, to ask
Oh,
the.
okay.
Would you be able to contact Selma Unified also for us before the 23rd to see if there is a genuine concern that our elementary schools would not absorb more students from 84 new families?
So, all projects and impacts related to those projects are evaluated against certain standards. So in this case, the traffic was evaluated against, based on a traffic handbook, basically. In the case of schools, impact to schools, it has been determined by multiple projects and court cases that by paying your impact fees, you are covering your costs. So the district sets those impact fees, and they're different for single-family residences versus multifamily residences. So, for example, I don't know what it would be, but for example, each multifamily unit, in this case 84, would be responsible for paying $5 or something. I have no idea what the number is.
No,
A square foot.
I understand.
Yeah,
I
it's done
understand
by
impact
square
fees.
foot. So so that's a predetermined calculated thing that every single project for residential and maybe even commercial have a small number, but it's based on square footage. They pay their fee, and those fees go towards increasing the capacity of the school district over time to meet the needs of the community.
Yeah, but if Jackson is at capacity and Wilson and Indianola, where would we send those kids? That's my question. I mean, they're not going to build any schools right now, but those apartments are going to go up right now.
I can't speak to the district's forethought and planning that they should have done or are doing. I don't know. But I can say that legally speaking, that's their obligation is to pay the impact fee that the school district sets.
Okay.
So they should be setting their numbers high enough to cover their costs.
And is the city going to face any lawsuits from other developers that have been desperately trying for years to put housing in that area, and they've been denied due to sewer capacity, and now we're making exceptions for those 84 units?
Well, in this case, there was a preliminary project review that was done a while back, and that was a comment in the packet that sewer needed to be the capacity needs to be expanded. So basically, in this case, if the project proponent can find funding, what we have found, this is brand new to me, but engineering's been dealing with it for, I don't know, 8 years or something. Usually those grant monies or any public funds are tied to specific types of uses. Low-income housing would be one, and jobs creators are one. So if the previous applicants were not proposing that, they did not meet those grant qualifications, then they couldn't get the funding. Any developer is welcome to build and extend their sewer. The problem that we've run up against is the developers don't want to pay for it.
Right, and that's why I'm saying, since we've told other developers they've got to pay, and this gentleman is saying we're going to give him an exception, he's not going to expand the sewer because it's like $5 million, and they can't afford it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if
we wouldn't be giving an exception. They would still be required to do so. I mean, that was just their idea, basically. The city would, I'm not the decision maker, but the city would stand by the requirement that you can't put it in if there's no capacity, and the city is not paying for it. So either it gets a grant funding or the developer pays. There's only two options
I just
here.
wanted to make sure of that.
Yeah.
I think they're probably going to look for funding to do it through the state.
It's fine. I mean, as long as they expand it, because my point is, there's 4 developers on that street, Mr. Nice Wonder knows, that have been waiting for years for some sort of help funding in order to put houses. And if we make an exception for these 84 units, we're going to have...
That's what she's saying, they're not.
Yeah, that's why I was just getting clarification for that. That's all.
Yeah, normally how that works is the first one in pays, and then they set up reimbursement agreements. But again, the city has tried to organize those. They've tried to facilitate that, and individual property owners and developers have put a wrench in those plans.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have another question for you. How far behind are we as the city, or how far behind is the city as far as low-income housing requirements?
I don't have the numbers. I don't know if you would know better, but it's significant. It's very significant. And the fines for not meeting those numbers are even more significant. I think you said $10,000 a day. Yeah.
And there's absolutely no other really lots in more, like, I guess, less congested area than Dinuba, because
I have it. So a lot of people come to planners with, you know, can we do this? Kind of like, we need to build sports fields. Okay, who's going to pay for that? You know? So all I can say is that I respond to projects that are brought forward to me, and I have only been here a few months, but this is the only one that I've seen. So I haven't seen someone with land somewhere else bring a project to us. Like, I have a preliminary project review that is free and doesn't go, it's not a formal application. I don't even